All right, starting recording. Anything you guys say or do will be captured. Go for it.
All right. Share my screen. So yeah, we've been through this before, I think, enough times. If you guys want to just open up Spring Initializer, this is just kind of everything that we're gonna need. I already generated mine and have it open in IntelliJ, but I wanted to just throw this up here for a second if you guys want to get caught up and code along. All right. So now, once you get it downloaded, I always like to just make sure, I always go into the pom.xml and just make sure that all my dependencies are downloaded. So we have the starter JPA, we have starter web, DevTools, and the H2 database. So before we go ahead and get started, there's a couple things we got to do. If you go into your main folder, then go into resources, you're going to want to open application.properties. And then you're going to type in spring.h2.console.enabled equals true. And then spring.datasource.url equals jdbc h2:mem:/testdb. So this is just giving us access to what's called the H2 console, which basically is just a database that you can run through Springboot. And the H2 part of it is just kind of like it's a GUI that helps us get a visual of our tables and whatnot. So start by making an entity. Actually, first let's make sure we can actually connect to the database. So just run your application. Okay, and once it gets started up, you can just go to your internet browser and just go to localhost 8080/h2-console. And then you guys should see something that looks something similar to this. So then once you're in there, just make sure that this line here is the same thing as what we put right here. So you can just copy this and just paste it right in there. The username defaults to SA and the password defaults to blank. You can set that if you want to, but I think it's just for this purpose and for quicker testing, I think it's just faster just to leave it as default. Then you can hit connect.
Christian said 1 second. Hold on.
Nope.
I was actually coming in. It was 3 minutes ago, so I hope I caught it fast enough. 1 second. Let's see if we can.
How do you see the chat when you're screen sharing?
You can. It just usually pops up on the other side. You have to click on View Options at the top and click on Chat, and it pops with a pop-up window. It's a bit tricky to keep track of. Yeah. That's why I'm going to try to keep track of it myself for you.
Okay. All right.
All
so
good.
anybody
Cool.
having?
Okay. Christian says all good. Just want to make sure everyone's following. Just slow it down, brother.
Gotcha. All right. Is everybody anybody having any issues or anything?
Any questions, anything you need to relook at, any code you need to look at, just feel free to speak up. Silence means we're good. Go for it.
All right. Yeah, so this is basically just a visual of the database we're going to be populating. So you're going to see once we start creating tables, they're going to show up in here. And then I'll show you a little bit more of what this does when we get to there. But for now, if you get to this point, you're good. We can connect to the database. So now we can start writing to it. So back in IntelliJ, we're just going to make a new package in class. So we can just call it, we can call the package entities, and the class will just be student. We're going to give it an entity annotation. So this is basically just going to create a new table automatically in the database. So we're gonna set a primary key for the table. So we're just going to use @id. We'll use @generated value, and we can just do private int ID.
One thing I want to add with this, as you're watching Richie go through this, see if you can connect where some of these are paralleling with the SQL lessons you guys dug into, and where some of these, we can see the @id is primary key. That was added in there. Generated value. Does anyone know the SQL parallel to that? Any guess?
Is it auto increment?
There you go. Yep. So that's what you want to look at while he's going through here. That's why that's one of the best ways to learn new items is to find parallels to something you already know. So you can see like, okay, I'm seeing what the matchup between Hibernate and the database is, even though it's not one-to-one, I can see how it might work underneath the hood. I at least have my theory and my hypothesis. So while Richie's going through this, see if you can keep track of those things. Sorry, keep going.
All right. So I think an obvious attribute by for a student would be their name. You guys think of anything else we can set for student?
Maybe email, and that's one.
Sure. Do email. Anything else?
Age.
Birthday.
Okay.
Mhm.
As an int. Okay. Yeah, that should be good for now. Okay, so we're going to want to give it a default constructor, which I don't know. Maybe Cliff can provide some clarification on this. I don't know, for some reason, if you don't set a default constructor, it just doesn't recognize student as a table. So
you have to add on the entity above the class the table name that you're assigning it to.
yeah, we can do that.
And don't we need the @table?
Yeah, that's that you need. You need add table and
Need entity.
then the name of the table.
Mm-hmm.
You need that table though for this? It was working for me without it. We'll see what it does. All right, and we'll just give it another constructor with all of our fields. Type. ID. What's that name equals name. Email equals email.
You could auto generate it if you
Yeah,
don't.
no,
know.
I thought of that afterwards.
If he's anything like me, I sometimes feel like I can type it faster than I can click the buttons.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah,
I
for
also
those
have
who
a
are blind
really
typers, yeah, you don't
clicky
want to move too
keyboard,
much.
so I'm trying not to slam on the keys too hard.
You just
so-
press all enter. I mean, all insert and then generate the value for you.
Really? That's interesting. Joel, just a heads up, I think your microphone may be rubbing against something because you're getting a bit of like a rubbing sound every time you talk.
Oh,
Just
am
heads
I?
up. Ooh, Jesus, yeah.
Is it still doing it?
Nope, wait, that sounds better.
Okay, all right.
There you go. Yep, cool. Golden.
No. And then we'll just generate some getters and setters for everything. And then we'll also override the toString method. And we'll just output all the information for the student.
Just a heads up, be ready for me to attack those getters and setters. Be ready.
Oh boy. All right, so now when we run it, and reconnect, you can see that we have student in here now. With all the values. So now what we can do is we can start populating the table within IntelliJ. So now if we go into our resources folder, we can make a new file, call it data.sql. Now we can insert into student values. ID, we can just do 1 for now. And all right, whose name are we using?
Jim.
Okay, we'll go with Jim. Jim's email is just going to be jim@jim.com. Why not? And then, how old is Jim? I don't want to be the one to answer this.
24.
24. Perfect. We'll just do, oops, do a couple more. Who else?
Claire.
Claire.
She should be Claire at jim.com.
Claire@jim.com. Okay. I like it. We'll roll with it. And how old is Claire?
31.
31.
Yeah, don't we know this is the Jackson Institute of Mechanical Technology? Just forgot the T.
And one more.
Maurice. I don't know how to spell it.
Maurice. Oh, geez.
Maurice.
Yeah, you're right. Oh no, I was thinking ESC. That doesn't. Yeah, that wouldn't be right at all.
I just had a question. Is the 1, the 2, and the 3, is that the ID?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have to put it into it? Because I know it was like auto increment.
I don't know if generated value auto increments.
It would the sequence generator would. Do you know what that is?
Sequence generator.
That's right. You can just keep
Use-
doing it. I was just.
Oh, I see. And then you can, you can set the initial value and then, okay. Yeah, I
Application
see what you're saying. Yeah, you could probably do it that way. We'll just stick to this way for now, just because this is what I
Yeah.
have prepared. So
Keep it simple. There, like I said, even with this, there's tons of rabbit holes you can go down to really, again, customize this to your needs. And once you realize, you know, I need to do it this, how do I do it? Can I do it? Look at it, research and find out how to do it. That's really the main thing. Again, you're going to learn the basics, you know how to play with it, and then it's up to you to go and get dirty in the playground yourself. Keep going.
all right. And then how old is Maurice?
69.
69. All right. So now if we go ahead and run this. Yep, something break. Something broke. What happened?
Are we getting an error message or something?
Yeah, something went wrong.
Well, you have the generated value for the ID, so I'm curious. I am wondering why you've been putting the ID in the first 1, 2, 3. Unless did I miss one of the data points?
Huh? No,
Yeah,
let me
that.
try getting rid of it, see what happens.
Yeah, because those are auto-generated. Try that.
Nope.
Also, go back to your instructor and move the ID. I think it sets automatically, remember? Yeah, I don't think you need to do the ID there in the constructor. Do you remember? Oh, I'm trying to remember. This is a while ago. Hold on.
I did in the right place. I did in the right spot.
It does still go on the constructor?
What was it?
I'm trying to tell. I'm trying to remind myself whether or not the
says the column
auto-generated
count.
value goes in the constructor. So line 23 is what I'm concerned about.
I don't think it belongs there because the generated value generates the automatically generates the value like 1, 2, 3.
Can you scroll down a little bit more in the terminal?
Yeah, just let me know when to stop.
No, you passed it. Up, go back up. Right there.
Yeah,
it's
just
not
pull one
there.
up. You have a blank one, then the second one ID doesn't belong, so you have to also remove it from the parameters. So line 22, remove ID.
Does not match.
Yeah, since that's auto-generated, it doesn't need to be part of the constructor because that's how you're going to build it. You're going to build one. Now, if you were going to, if it wasn't auto-generated and you wanted certain different ways of creating one, you could do that. But since the ID is generated, you're never going to provide the ID. It's automatic. So the class will build it. So try that one.
Oh, before you do that.
Oops, sorry. What got here though?
No, it's not. That's not the problem. Go back to the data.
The data? Go for it.
So it's saying
Yeah,
there's
David.
something wrong with your column count.
What's going on?
Also,
Column
your
count?
entity manager is not working too, but yes, your column count was
No, I'm missing the rest of this. Give me a second.
it also says an error creating the bean at the entity factory manager.
All right, now go back to the student.java. All right, can you scroll down in the terminal? You going? Right there. And that's the first line, right, of the sequel.
Yep.
That Jim at Jim.com 24.
Yeah, that's the first line of a sequel.
Oh. So it doesn't like the way you're inserting for some reason.
Yeah, this is where I'm not sure of because that I'm actually the previous student, the one who did the entity example last time, didn't actually use a SQL file. They just used one of the they just
Let me
created
try
a
what,
route, very
let me try
basic
what
get
Christian
route,
said.
just to put stuff in and pull things out. If I remember correctly.
Can you
I'm
scroll
actually
to
not
the
sure how to
right
use
on
the
that
SQL file.
terminal?
I'm not sure how to use the SQL file. I'd also try adding just one before you try to do multiple. Try adding
You're
one
going.
first.
You're going to see it says column count doesn't match SQL statement. So.
Hmm. Wait, so maybe that does need the values now. Maybe it was constructor that was wrong, not this. Maybe we do need the IDs here because this isn't actually using the class though. This isn't actually using the class, I think.
No, Christian seems to have a fix
Ooh, Christian's got something.
by adding that.
Let me check.
Yeah, get rid of ID though, because you don't need ID. Because you're not inserting ID.
True.
I think that's still gonna bound though, because it doesn't
Yeah,
like
because I
it's
don't
not
think
gonna
it's
like that.
using
He's
the
saying
object.
it-
So
he's
keep
saying it
try,
fails
but I
without
think you're
ID.
right. Christian just said, yeah, it fails without the ID because it isn't auto-generating right now. Interesting. We can bug that second. So for now, let's add the IDs, add the ID to value, just to make sure. First goal we want to do is get this working. Once we have
Yeah.
workable code, then we can figure out where the code is breaking, and we can fix that. One of my first things that I do as a developer is always this is one of my troubleshooting goals is just first get it working, something close to what I want, and then I could adjust what I want it to actually do.
All right, so it's happy now.
Hey, no error. That looks good.
All right, so now if you click on the student here on the left-hand side, it'll automatically create a SQL statement, select all from student, and you can just run it up top here. And then it should pull all of the data for the table. So now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to create a new class or a new interface rather. This one will be called student repository. I just want to give it an @repository. This is just going to extend JPA repository. And we need to give it the table or the entity, which is student. And then the primary key type, which was integer. And now back into our main class. Switch a couple things up. So we're going to have it implement command line runner. I'm just going to implement the methods. Make sure you're overriding. We're going to put a logger. Private logger equals logger factory dot get logger. Just this dot class. I throw auto wired, and we're just gonna student repository. Now down here in the run class, for everybody, anybody have any questions or anything up to this point?
I just want to say someone has their TV on.
Oh,
All right, here we go. So we're just gonna, in the run method, we're just gonna do logger .info. And then we're gonna say just do all students. And we can pull from the student repository that's now connected to our student table. We can just do find all. So now if we rerun this, it should output in your terminal. Just see at the last line, all students. And then it's going to print out your whole table there. So we can also get a little more specific. So we can say student with ID 1. And you can pull from the repository, find by ID, and then 1. Run it again. And that will pull the student with the primary key of 1. And then we can also delete by ID. So we'll just delete 2. And we'll just copy this line, repaste it. You can see how that works. So first we have 3 students. And then we delete student number 2. And then we're left with students with ID 1 and 3. So yeah, that's basically what Hibernate is. It's just kind of getting an understanding or being able to map Java classes to SQL databases.
Perfect. That was exactly what you were going to say, the map.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it does. Just a framework that helps make your life easier. Because if you didn't have Hibernate, you'd have to do this all yourself. Build the maps yourself on how to code out your repository find all to generate the right commands, open the right ports, pull the data, parse the data, and then send it back in a way that's functional. So Hibernate does a lot of heavy lifting for you just to make your life easier. Since enough people have used it enough, they realize, you know, we need something simpler and quicker because we're going to use this. We're going to do this again. We're going to use SQL databases in so many projects. We got to make sure that there's an easy way to communicate with these things. I shouldn't have to rebuild the communication every single time. So, and then make sure that you can stay OOP-centric in your projects while using something like SQL instead of having to go to SQL syntax and stuff like that. You're now able to easily map your SQL data to objects so you can stay OOP-centric. Very good that you use that term map. Great work.
Thank you.
Any
Anyone
questions?
have any questions? I can try to answer.
I know Evan just walked in, so he has all the questions.
no, that's cool.
I think
I'll just catch up with the video.
I figured.
There you.
I brought you in. I'm like, oh, actually, unfortunately, we're wrapping up. But at least you'll know that we wrapped up. We got something working, so you'll check it out. You can play with it. Again, the main goal for everyone here is to make now what you need to do from today until Thursday is build one of your own to actually pull your own data. I think I looked away for a quick second because I was eating my pizza. But did we actually figure out the auto increment, or is that still not working currently?
No, we didn't.
All right, so
Get
there's
that.
a challenge for we'll see if we can get that figured out. And I'm actually gonna leave that as a challenge. So try to figure that out, people. So you got everything you need here, the basics to get a system in Hibernate up and running. We know we use auto-generated IDs very often, so try to figure that out. And then think of the other things we did with the SQL things and see if you can figure out how to then tweak this to then add in those extra layers. We talked about foreign keys and stuff, so feel free to look at that. Again, in the end, I do plan to upload or give you guys access to the cohort 8 classroom as well, so you'll be able to look at those videos. So you have the end goal is that everyone in the classroom should have two lessons for each one of these topics. Well, most of them. You guys, since you had more students, have a couple topics that the morning class didn't teach. So the goal is that everyone in this group has 2 lessons that they can watch and kind of see which, if one instructor it didn't click with you yet, and you're like, you know what, I need to hear it a different way or from a different person, you'll have that second thing. And the goal actually moving forward is to have every next cohort that does this kind of stuff that they have it. I always hope to be able to post at least 2 other videos of the same lesson so that every student has a multitude of people that they can pull from so they can learn whichever person tends to explain in the way that it clicks for them, you'll have that. So if everyone here clicks on Richard, great. If someone's like, yeah, I need a little bit more, you'll have that secondary one. If someone let's say the morning group needed it, they were struggling with the stuff, they asked me for it, I'll be giving them your guys' videos and then be like, you know, Richie covered this perfectly. I now get it. I get it now. So that's one thing we also notice, that everyone learns differently. So we want to make sure we have these multiple videos that can help you guys learn things the way you need to learn. So I'll be posting those up. I got to double check on them because I know on last week's Monday's class, the video ended up being a little corrupted at the end. So I got to fix it. I'm going to try to get that up tonight now. I think I got figured out what might have gone wrong. So I think I'll be able to finally upload that one. I also need to check to see if I actually linked up the Thursday one. I may have forgot about that one. So I'll get that up there. Someone's watching TV. I missed that. But I think that's it. Any other, yeah, challenge yourself to rebuild this. And the first challenge, and one of the ways to really make, again, I want to give you guys the tips to make these challenges as difficult as you can. Try to do it without having Richard's video playing at the same time, without watching his tutorial at the same time. See how much of this you're able to kind of do from memory. Challenge your brain to retain that information. If you're always just going to go and always watch a video to do it, you're always going to need that video to then do it again the second time later on. So challenge yourself to see how much of this do I remember from my memory. And as soon as you're like, nope, I don't have it, it's not there, go ahead and then refresh. But try to see how much of this you can pull from memory. And then, like I said, just take it a couple extra steps ahead. Whenever you watch a video from me, whenever I do a lesson with you guys, whenever one of your classmates do a lesson with you, always do what they did in the lesson and then go 1 or 2 steps beyond, just to make sure that you can play with it. Because we've always said before, it's one thing to learn, it's another thing to be able to then fiddle with it yourself and to adjust it later on. And that way you can ask any questions you need. Any other questions? Good stuff.
Nope.
Good. I'll stop the recording.